Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Hall. I am from the P2 Collaborative. I'm the Population Health Improvement Program Manager, otherwise known as FIP. So thanks, everybody, for being on our FIP webinar series today. So this morning, we have Kimberly LaMendola. Kim is the Regional Development Coordinator and Food Systems Project Manager for Southern Tier West Regional Planning and Development Board, serving Allegheny, Cattaraugus, and Chautauqua counties. She is also the Regional Program Manager for federal grants from the Appalachian Regional Commission and assists local applicants in the development of eligible project proposals and provides economic and community development planning assistance. With food system project goals to strengthen return on investment for farmers and local food producers and increase local food access, Kimberly builds on existing regional food economy assets and provides programmatic development and planning assistance at all points on the food economy supply and value chains. Projects initiated include the STW Regional Farmers Market Network, Fresh Local Western New York, Food Hub and Meat Processing Industries Assessments, Regional Food Branding and Promotion Campaign, various professional training and development programs, supply and value chain facilitation, and the recent acquisition of New York Sustainable Agricultural Working Group. She currently serves as Chair of the Board of Directors for Canticle Farms Incorporated, a nonprofit CSA sponsored by the Franciscan Sisters of Allegheny, and is a board candidate for the New York Small Scale Food Processors Association. Kimberly holds a bachelor's in science from SUNY Empire State College with a specialized major in community and rural development. She earned a professional certificate in food security and agricultural specialization from Colorado State University's Sustainable Community Development Program. Kimberly has over 20 years of grantsmanship experience in nearly all sectors and has been a peer grant reviewer in several state and federal programs. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Kimberly LaMendola. Thank you very much, Kimberly, for presenting this morning.
Hi, thanks, Karen. And I just wanted to say thank you to Christina and Karen for making the webinar process an easy peasy one, and I look forward to working through these slides with everybody. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of this kind of rainy day in Western New York. And at this point in our season, as a lot of our farmers markets are beginning to wind down, this really is a good time for us to take a little break and talk with many of you who within your organizations or other entities might be considering management or hosting or sponsoring of a market possibly next season. So as Karen said, I work for Southern Tier West Regional Planning and Development Board. We're physically located in Salamanca, but we serve the counties of Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, and Allegheny in Western New York. One of the roles that we perform is a relationship with the federal state agency called Appalachian Regional Commission, or ARC. ARC, first of all, we are in the federal designated area known as Appalachia. And I can only say if you're above New York Interstate 80 and you say Appalachia, the folks below Interstate 80 will correct you and say, no, 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 it's Appalachia. But as you can see on the map, our service areas are the three southwesternmost counties along the tier of New York State, and we're also part of the Western New York Regional Economic Development Council area, which also includes Erie and Niagara County, as you can see outlined. Appalachia, New York State, spans from Chautauqua County to the far west to 13 other counties, so a total of 14 counties to the east and south, all the way down to include Delaware County. So there are some benefits and perks to being in Appalachia as far as funding and program implementation that we are charged to do. And one of the most recent initiatives by ARC is to use their local gatekeeping agencies, which is what Southern Tier West is, to work at a very local and regional level to reinvigorate local food systems. So as you can see a little bit about Southern Tier West, generally we are chartered by each of the 3 counties to represent them in regional planning and development. We are considered a unit of special purpose government, and we've worked in many program areas, including regional planning, transportation, broadband development. We've had a staff person working in healthcare and patient-centered medical home projects, infrastructure build-out, GIS, asset mapping, and food system development. So we do a little bit of everything, and I like to say we are fortunate in that we are the intermediary. So we work regionally to represent our regional stakeholders' concerns or opportunities for growth and development, and we connect to state and federal resources. So some of our food system work to date is bulleted on the slide to the right, but generally our food system work is supported with 2 fairly broad goals. And both goals are weighted equally. So one goal, one of our 10 goals, is to increase profitability for farmers and food producers. So measures that program services that will continue to keep farming or food production profitable, keep land in Western New York State in production, and support farmers that are, or producers that are growing food that can be accessed or consumed by our local residents, and while also increasing consumer access to our healthy, nutritious food that's been locally grown. And a very broad objective, our work generally is to create a vibrant food system that assures the farmers and food producers have a strong growth-oriented market for their products by increasing consumer access and increased purchases of that food. So some of the ways that we do that is help the food producers diversify their market channels, have access to training and resourcing. Sometimes it's just connecting the dots, and we do that very well here at Southern Tier West. We connect the dots. We also like to add a few more dots to the asset map. So to the right, we've done work that has related to branding and promotion, compilation of food assets, farmers, growers, producers, outlets, food pantries, anywhere that people are using local food products. We've worked obviously with local and community economic development officials in valuing the importance of our agriculture sector, also while working with our community health professionals, health departments, human resource agencies, in assisting them to understand the local assets in the food economy and to help them connect their resources, their clients, and their other agencies they interact with to points in the local food system. We've worked a little bit with farm-to-school efforts. We're working right now, many of you may have been working with my colleague Susan Avery, who is working on a grant program that's helping us work with farmers markets and human resource agencies to strengthen the use of SNAP at farmers markets. And you can see we like to put people together in partnership and resource groups. So it's a fun job. I was just talking to Karen. It's a great fit with my personal interest and background in both food and community and rural development, and we're seeing successes in both of our goals with increasing consumer access and in helping our agriculture sector and farmer and food producers keep doing what they do better and putting a little bit more money in their pocket. So what we're going to talk about today is farmers markets. A lot of the work that we've done has been with farmers markets, as we've been able to assess through a feasibility assessment and various surveys, and also support with trends and data from state and national sources. I mean, farmers markets are hot. The trend of farmers markets has been pretty phenomenal, and because of our formation and backbone support of the Regional Farmers Market Network, which is a peer resource network of the 20 or so farmers markets in our 3 counties, we field and vet phone calls and inquiries all the time from churches, support groups, municipalities. Hey, we're going to start a farmers market, so can you just give us the name and phone numbers of all the farmers that are at the such and such existing market so that we can swing them over to our market? And, you know, of course, we get the deer in the headlights look and then put the brakes on and start from the beginning with the way any project should be implemented, with some judicious planning and assessment. And we don't like to say we're the Debbie Downers, but sometimes we sound that way when we start working with an organization or an entity that has approached us with help in starting. Usually it's not help in starting the farmers markets, it's just give me all the information and we're just going to do it ourselves. So then we come in with tempering of the process that needs to be looked at both regulatorily and best practices. So we're going to talk about a little bit of that today. But so why? Why is the trend to have a farmer's market in your community so predominant and I guess trendy now? So this chart, which has been prepared by the Agricultural Marketing Service of USDA, shows the more than quadruple growth in the number of farmers markets that are reported as operating as a farmers market in the U.S. In the last 20 years. Now, that's just through 2014. It's been unprecedented growth from about 1,800 to the time that this data was gathered to just over 8,100 farmers markets operating across the United States. In New York State alone, at the time of some of the census data in 2014, we had approximately 600 farmers markets operating in New York State, 62 counties and boroughs. If you just average that out without waiting for urban areas or population density, I mean, that would be approximately, 9.5 farmers markets per 62 counties or boroughs. I mean, it's not skewed that way, but I think we think quite a dense amount. And even though it seems like we've got a lot of farmers markets operating in New York State, we still have entities saying, we want more. I know there's a market 4 miles down the road, but the mayor says we need one here in our community. So a lot of the work that we do, again, starts from scratch in basic assessments. But so, as you can see, there is a trend at the increase of farmers markets, and everybody seems to want one right now in their community. Right now, here at the end of 2016, we may be seeing in New York State and in our own region a leveling off of farmers markets due to possible market saturation, due to economy and a variety of other factors. But farmers markets mean business. So in our work that we do through the Regional Farmers Market Network and Southern Tier West, we look at things through also the financial economic impact lenses. So to understand the business side of farmers markets, so we know communities and entities want to start a farmers market, and what we're finding when we start working with them, their reasons to start a market aren't always aligned with the reasons why a vendor or a farmer needs to have a farmer's market. But overall, having a market operate in your community means that there is considerable money flowing through that market on its operating days. Part of what we like to start out with is a farmer's market is a business. It is I don't want to say a mall, we don't want to say a mall, but it is a one-day, 6-hour-a-day week, if it's on a Saturday, business. While people look at farmers markets for a lot of the other amenity indicators, it's a business, and every vendor setting up is a shop owner or a self-proprietor that is there to conduct business. So the graph or the chart over on the left shows, if you're seeing this in color, the blue D2C, that's direct to consumer. So farms that are growing food that they will then turn around and sell themselves directly to the end user, usually through a farm stand or farmer's market. The number of those farms across the U.S. is still prevalent. While other farms grow food and use a facilitator or somebody like a wholesaler to distribute it, the number of local farms that are growing food to sell to them to the consumer themselves is still prevalent. And the sales, now that's in, even though the sales in billions of dollars, but the key is in percentage, it is still, direct-to-consumer farms are still a real strong link in the entire food chain in the United States. So farmers markets mean businesses. And what we do know that it means hyper-local businesses. Statewide, data from the Farmers Market Federation of New York says that the average farmer will travel 17 miles from where they farm to where they will attend a farmer's market. Consumer surveys that were conducted in our 3 counties last year and the year before indicate that locally, regionally, our farmers are traveling less than 10 miles from where they grow to where their farmer's market is. The average farmer's market consumer in our 3-county area is only traveling approximately less than 5 miles to their farmer's market. So our farmers markets are generating money really at a hyper-local business. Some of you may have seen this before if you were at the kickoff in West Seneca for the Western New York Healthy Communities Coalition. We use this at our table discussion. This is a handy sheet prepared by the Farmers Market Coalition, which is a national farmers market resource and support and advocacy organization. And really, I don't think we could say it or summarize it any better. Even though this is several years old, the key indicators of why communities, why the need for farmers markets is still strong and germane. We'll get into this a little bit more, and then this infographic we can make available as a standalone PDF if you want to download it. But they are economic, farmers markets operating in a community is an economic driver. All of you, I'm sure, are aware of some of the multiplier effects. The multiplier effects in the food economy and agricultural sector, maybe even a little bit more than the average 2.8. They're saying it's the return on local spending for farmers markets is 3 times that than a chain grocery store. Farmers markets are job creators. Farmers markets preserve farmland, and we keep development pressure at bay by keeping our farmland in production. And what a lot of folks on the line today are really interested in, the connection of farmers markets to fresh, nutritious food, and how having a farmers market and people making relationships with farmers can support healthy communities in ways that farmers markets are in walkable areas oftentimes, they're in motorized wheelchair areas, and that they have a positive psychosocial effect with civic engagement. So a lot of things can be measured as a result of a farmer's market operating in your community. So kind of quickly to summarize what was on that previous slide, farmers markets have measurable economic impacts. With nearly 600 markets in New York State, we can measure to the extent that we can get accurate sales data from farmers and market vendors as to the multiplier effect, but we know that on market day, there's cash flowing, cash in the pockets of farmers and vendors, cash for the host organization through the source of vendor setup fees, and cash to consumers accrued from cost savings of the purchase of products directly from farmers. Susan Avery has worked with an intern, one of our market associates this year, who has done some comparison of various types of produce and fruits purchased at our local farmers markets with similar size, volume product purchased at a couple of chain grocery stores, and across the board, prices are generally lower at farmers markets, and the quality and freshness are much superior. So Susan, I believe, is processing that information, and we can make that data available soon. So economic impacts are a big boom. They continue also with indirect impacts, because a lot of items going through the farmers markets generate sales tax for the community. Workforce is needed. We know that there is spillover spending on farmer market days, and that farmers that are selling direct to consumer farms stay in business longer, and that's one of our goals. I'll clip right along here. So there are community development impacts from a farmer's market. One of the things I want to point out is oftentimes a farmer's market operates in a community, but in a void with communication from, say, the Chamber of Commerce or the town's community development professional or the county tourism folks. Even though farmers markets are leveraged in promotion and collateral materials, why you should move to this city, why you should move to this town because we have a farmer's market. But guess what? The president of the chamber, the mayor, the county tourism folks don't ever shop at the farmer's markets, or invest or financially support. So we see farmers markets are leveraged for many other impacts, but oftentimes the host agency does not reap any direct benefit from those leverages. So, and also there are environmental impacts from farmers markets operating. Just startling, we lose an acre of farmland per minute across the U.S. to development. You know, folks, we don't get that back. Very rarely do we see subdivisions demolished and converted back to farmland. It is important to keep our land in agriculture and food production. And usually the closer the food, the less need for any type of chemical or other applications. So farmers markets are also a link in the access to fresh, nutritious food. Farmers markets are gathering places. They're civic places where neighbors can meet neighbors. So that's one of the things that a lot of our communities have lost is a civic community place where people can actually get along. So again, the farmers markets are a direct connection. Usually the farmer who grows or makes or processes the food or somebody associated with the farmer is present at the market or at their stand on market day. And it's also a way to make a relationship with the person who is growing or making your food. Farmers markets are a perfect place for tastings and demonstrations. And part of the work that Susan has done with the farmers markets this year with SNAP is to demonstrate no-cook or low-cook recipes using very simple, very few ingredients, but that pack a nutritional punch and that are easy for income-supported households to ease into transferring their benefits purchasing from processed food items to choosing a fresh or fresh frozen food item to make their meals. So farmers markets are an educational portal, and they also are just places where people can walk a little and you know, maybe get some of their steps in for their Fitbit. Anyway, farmers markets recently also has become a key target portal for SNAP and other income benefits programs. So markets can be certified, vendors can be certified and approved to take the various coupons and programs that are available to be redeemed. And you just, the amount of money available just in our communities alone for SNAP households that are adjacent or nearby farmers markets, you know, could translate to significant spending with our food producers. And the next slide shows that, again, corresponding with the number of farmers markets, has been an increase in SNAP purchases. But still, as the pie chart on the right shows, overall, SNAP redeemed at farmers markets is still less than 1% of where SNAP is redeemed in all the other places. We're making gains, but it's, as we're finding with this grant that we're working on, it's about communication, it's about awareness of where farmers markets operate, and it's about working with our human resource agencies who are working with SNAP and other benefit recipients to make those connections with farmers markets. So a lot of work has been done by organizations this year. We've got one more year on the grant, and like I said, we're beginning to see positive results and outcomes of this work, and it's heartening. So we're hoping that this behavior modification sticks and that we see SNAP and other income-supported households become regular customers at our farmers markets. So So one of the discussions that came out of our kickoff tabletop discussion at the P2 event was we heard, again, hey, I'm from this church group, or hey, my service club, or hey, the Rotary, or hey, the town of, we want to start a farmer's market too. So, boy, just tell me how to do this. So this is kind of like our humorous Debbie Downer. I don't like that word. This is our humorous temper the reality slide. So you want to start a farmer's market, and if you're going to call it a farmer's market, here are some points at the very minimum that you need to consider, other than picking up the phone and calling Southern Tier West or an extension agent and saying, hey, just give me the names of farmers, and so I'm going to go to the farmer's market that's already operating and see then if they want to come to my farmer's market. That's not a best practice. Cannibalizing farmers markets is nothing we ever support or advocate. So a farmer's market in New York State means that there are some local, state, and federal regulations. As you know, New York State, everything is regulated. We'll get into some of these a little bit later, but just location and the capacity for customer traffic and parking is a big consideration. And you'll see this repeated in the list. Where are the farmers? Because it is a farmer's market. And in New York State, as we'll see in a couple of slides down, you need to have the farmers to call it a farmer's market. Governance management, where are the farmers? Who's going to handle the finances? Who's going to bear the bottom line? Anytime you hold an event where people are coming and interacting with each other, an emergency or crisis can happen. Guess what? You probably should have a crisis management plan. Where are the farmers? And because you have a crisis management plan, it means that you probably need to have insurance or liability or demonstration, as well as liability proof from all the vendors participating. See, so now the idea of, hey, we're going to start a farmer's market because people can walk around with coffee, people can chat, the kids from the church can have a place to sing, the rescue society can bring the animals down. So the reality is you're running a pop-up business, and as is any other business venture in New York State, comes all of these not so fun points of consideration. Health department laws, New York State ag and market laws, where are the washrooms, special permits. I know Susan worked with one community recently that had, they were planning on a farmer's market or a pop-up market, but lo and behold, there was an anti-peddling law that they had to circumvent. And if you're going to take coupons and process, you need to have machines and technology. And guess what? People like to bring their dogs and even cats and ferrets to the farmer's market. So lions, tigers, dogs, cats, oh my, and where are the farmers? So there's our movie star going, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But you know what? Don't fear. We can help anybody who's considering hosting or sponsoring or starting a farmer's market get through all of these points. So as we like to say, when planning a farmer's market, farmers come first, or else it's just a market. So the emphasis from our perspective in helping a farmer's market achieve sustainable operations and best practices is you got to consider the farmers first. And that little Will Rogers quote I think is appropriate for today's farmer and yesterday's farmer and future farmer. So what is a farmer's market? Well, here comes some of the regulatory. In New York State, farmers markets are generally overseen by New York State Department of Ag and Markets. So here's the state's declaration Section 2.59, that basically says, hey, New York State acknowledges that the farmers markets are a great marketing mechanism. They improve access to consumers and wholesalers to New York State foodstuff, and they contribute to the economic vitality of an area. And then so that's the declaration. And then here's the definition, according to Ag and Markets. A farmer's market, if you're going to call it a farmer's market in New York State, promote it as a farmer's market, and expect to, at some point, be able to process SNAP and other benefits, you have to fall under this umbrella of definition. So basically, to call it a farmer's market, you need to have at least 2 or more producers. Those are farmers or value-added food processors who, hang on a second, let me look at my note, two or more producers at the market consistently. It also, at the very end, defines that a farmer's market can also include other businesses that reasonably serve, but that are not that aren't farmers. So food service, baking, and non-food retailing. So you can have those, your soap vendors, your fiber crocheted people. Those are the people that sell candles. Those are people doing the takeaway food. So one of the best mixes that one of the mixes of farmers market vendors that we recommend comes from the Ithaca Farmers Market. So 60% of the vendors at a farmers market, it's recommended that 60% be your food producers. 30% is a good number to have non-food producers. So again, your crafters, soap makers, artisans. And then the last 10%, a takeaway food item. Many markets want a vendor who is, who's approved to cook on site, so that market patrons can have a sandwich or, fresh-made donuts and cider and hot dog or lunch items, so that they can extend their stay at the market as they wander around and eat. So if you're going to have a 15 vendor market, which is a little higher than average for our small rural markets, 9 of those vendors are going to be your food producers, vegetables, fruit, and other. 5 will be your 5 can be your non-food producers, and then you'll have 1 person possibly selling takeaway food items. So that's a good mix that works that we have found. And then a producer, farmer or producer, means any person who grows, produce, or cause to be grown or produced farm products in New York State. Once you get into taking some of the programs like SNAP, Farmers Market Nutrition Program, Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, coupons, there's a very specific verbiage that says a farmer's market has to be approved, has to have 2 bona fide farmers. And a bona fide farmer is basically someone who is selling by volume on their table that day at least 50% of what he or she has grown themselves, produced themselves, or caused to be grown or produced themselves. So some of those benefit programs have very specific language as to what your market structure needs to be and what certifications or benchmarks need to be achieved in order to take benefits, even in order to be called a farmer's market in New York State. So from that list, some of the key considerations, putting the emphasis on, you need to have the farmers. You need to have a real farmer to be called a farmer's market in most cases is, if you're looking at organizing, we say don't assume that you're going to create a market and the farmers will come. You need to have the farmers already lined up and wanting to come to participate so that you can build a successful market around them. Remember, they are expecting to come to your one-day place of business so that they can conduct sales of the product that they have just spent months growing, putting money out to invest the production of growing. They need to have a vibrant, competitive marketplace. So your responsibility is to create that business entrepreneurial environment for them to come and have success. So obviously you can't guarantee success if it rains every Saturday or every Wednesday afternoon that your market is operating. But the way you structure and the farmers that are aligned with you are very, very important. You may be wanting to start a market for one of those check boxes on your indicators of a quality, livable community, but you're also beholden to creating managing and sustaining the business side of it. So this kind of fulcrum balance of the social and health impacts of having a farmer's market connecting with consumers is a really delicate balance in assuring that the market you are creating is vibrant, competitive, and attractive to maintain your farmers and food producers coming back every week. So given all of that, you got to figure out how you're going to organize and structure the managing entity if you now want to be the managing entity. Governance. Markets at minimum need to have rules. You see, you're regulated by New York State. You also need to have market level rules. And we've seen, and we may laugh, but we've seen it. If you do not establish rules and governance, you will have vendors, and I say the old-fashioned word, coming to fisticuffs. We've seen it. So we've seen a community say, you know what, we're just going to, anybody who wants to set up in the parking lot behind the municipal building, we're going to call it a farmer's market. Well, you're going to have, no rules. Anybody who wants, we're not going to charge anything. Anybody who wants to sell can come. Well, you're going to have farmers who've invested their time, effort, and money for 8 months growing something, setting up next to somebody who's purchased everything from the auction or a wholesaler. And that's not really creating a fair, equitable market opportunity for them. So I mean, you can key and set up your market any way, but you need to have published governance and rules, and also somebody who at market day is going to enforce them. Like I said, this then is not the fun stuff, but a lot of these points in consideration can, are developed in committee, in your office, in your organization, so that when you move through the process and you're ready to ring the bell on your very first market's opening day, you've already established protocols for success. Operations, you need to have an operations plan because your vendors will turn over. And you know what, your customers, when you start to build a customer base, they do want to have, they want to have the market change and grow and appeal to them, just the way grocery stores would change their merchandising and the way they do things. Markets also have to respond that way. Again, connecting to the community health, nutrition coupon programs, the red tape, the language is overwhelming. And a lot of these programs, in order to have your market approved to be able to process these SNAP and other programs, you have to have your training and demonstration of having taken the appropriate training very early in the season, usually by March 1st. So if any of you are planning a market for 2017, it's now the very end of October 2016 when we're doing this webinar. You're almost too late in planning. Contact us, contact the Farmers Market Federation of New York as soon as possible, and we can help you work through this. So again, the markets don't just organically happen. They are managed, they are contrived, and they need to be maintained. Remember, they are a business. So, and it takes work to sustain a market, to keep it fresh, because you want your farmers coming back every week. It takes work. It takes targeted, dedicated work. It's merchandising, it's promotion, it's communications, it's creativity. And if you're going to go in down the management road, flexible, because we know things happen, creative, tenacious, but above all, you really need to be passionate about the why that you are establishing the market. And then this is actually just it's a pretty inclusive checklist from the Farmers Market Federation of New York, taken from their manual of how to develop a community farmers market. So they have 26 points, I added number 27, repeat steps as necessary every year because there is turnover. But starting from start, minimally, and this is very topically, start your steering committee, but determine the why. Why do you want to start the market? Do a little bit of logic model push out. So if we start the market, what are we anticipating being the outputs, and then what are the outcomes? So if you're working to change community health indicators or to increase access or reduce, obesity, which is, pre-diabetes, those are big goals. Really look back at some of the maybe micro measures that you could actually gather data that can contribute to those bigger issues. But you really should have a clear understanding of why you want to go down this path. And then as we work through it is, again, you need to survey the stakeholders. First of all, who is going to come to vend? You've got to vet and identify farmers and food producers that'll say, you know what, I'll be a partner with you in the startup of this market. You also have, and because you're operating a business, you need to also reach into the existing business community. This is for real. One of our villages in one of our counties sponsored a farmer's market, set it up on Sunday after the churches in the community let out. There is one small family-run grocery store whose best market day was Sunday after church, and now the farmer's market is actually operating across the street in the park. The independently owned corner grocery store fought for 2 years to close that market down because they looked at it as a competitor. There was nasty signages out on the sidewalk, shop here, not there, until finally we actually helped just a little bit with handshakes across the street. The farmers market then asked the owners to be on their board, and it ended up being a win-win situation eventually, but it was contentious. So remember, your farmers market may be viewed as a competing entity to an existing business in that community. So you really need to have buy-in before you have a communications or community relations crisis. And so just some of the checklist items that you need to go down through, and again, permits, are the big thing, and repeat the steps necessary annually because things do change. So again, that checklist is part of a manual published by the Farmers Market Federation of New York. So some of the challenges, if you're working with a population that you're hoping to improve a health indicator, farmers markets, for the most part right now, are only year-round because most of our products are available, the demand is year-round, but most of our products are not available year-round. So how do you acculturate your customers to coming back? You know, you shop at a farmer's market mid-May to usually November 1st, but then you know, their habits may fall back to buying processed food or other type of poorer food choices. How do you reinvigorate their enthusiasm to come back next May? Farmers are aging out. One of your biggest challenges is going to be keeping your farmer's market being able to be called a farmer's market. And we may be seeing apex of farmers markets in New York State and locally. There are, you know, other avenues to connecting with farmers, so we're trying to stay ahead of the trend as possible to help farmers markets remain flexible, appealing, and competitive. So resources are available, and the Farmers Market Federation of New York has a terrific guide to developing a community's farmers market. That's about 80 pages. And then if you're going to manage a market, there's the training manual. It's nearly 300 pages. But within that document, which is available for free online, are templates for the community surveys, and it's just a wealth of information. Moving down to NOFA, our friends in NOFA, Vermont, Northeast Organic Farming Association, Vermont, is now working on creating a farmers market legal toolkit, because guess what? You're going to operate a business. There are all kinds of, in our litigious society, things that can go legally wrong. And I like to say there's not one single right way, but many possible wrong ways to manage a farmer's market. And if a farmer's market isn't the right fit for you, you know what? There are other ways to get that food into your community. A mobile market, pop-up events, gleaning programs, food box programs, you know, like the Blue Apron and those home order things. You can do that on a local basis. Food pantries are good sources to connect with farmers and then turn around and make that fresh food available. Community gardens. So if the management of a farmer's market, as it's called in New York State, isn't a fit for you right now, you can dabble your toes in possibly other models. So, questions?
If anybody has any questions for Kim, you can type them into the chat box on your screen, and we'll feed the questions for her.
So again, we are very happy to help in all of Western New York. Any organization or entity that might be considering a farmer's market or any other program where they're looking for a deeper connection to growers or producers of fresh fruits, vegetables, shelf-stable products, as we've got a lot of producers now doing pickles and hot processed thermal produced items that are shelf-stable. The food economy is strong in Western New York, and sometimes it's just about knowing how to jump into the economy and where in the value and supply chain your organization can play a part of. So again, happy to help. Feel free to contact me at the email or phone number. And I think this PowerPoint will be available on the website, and I think we'll also make it available on our Fresh Local WNY.org. And if you do Facebook and Twitter, be sure to give us a like. We're Fresh Local WNY.
Kim, we do have a question. This is a question pertaining to SNAP. What percentage of Western New York farmers markets accept SNAP, if you can make your best guess? And how difficult is it to register with SNAP, and what is the process like?
Okay, so with the markets that we work in our three areas, approximately half now are approved to accept SNAP. The process sometimes can be daunting. It really isn't, because we have a terrific advocate with the Farmers Market Federation of New York. The Farmers Market Federation of New York is actually, in fact, they will actually help an applicant, whether it's a market or an individual farmer, work through the paperwork. And as of now, the Farmers Market Federation is able to provide the processing equipment, the smartphone, so that free of charge, so that, and I believe the data plan for a couple of years, so that the markets can have that mobile process technology. So there are a lot of resources available, and organizations such as us or the Farmers Market Federation that can literally hold a market's hand in walking through that process.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't see any more questions coming in, so thank you for that one particular question, the good question. And I just wanted to remind folks that, yes, this will be posted up to the P2 website. So if you wanted to share this information with any of your colleagues, please do. And I also wanted to remind folks that our next FIP webinar is going to be in December, so be on the lookout for that. And again, thank you to Kimberly LaMendola for presenting today. It was wonderful information, lots to look into. So we appreciate you giving your time today and presenting on all this fantastic information that you were able to give us today. So
very welcome.
Thank you. I will thank everybody again for joining us, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.